you're gone.
Take a message.
Bye.
Ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Well, it's us. We think we're here. I don't know. Shut down. There's Franz. He must be here. It's like they say, I must have money in the bank. I still get checks, right? We must be on the air. I see your picture. And good evening to you, Franz. An unusual night for us. We don't normally broadcast on Sunday nights, but an event happened today, and you were there for the press conference. And I guess in old school parlance, you say the other shoe finally dropped and is expected and written a lot, especially during this past week by us. You had a column, I had a column. It's going to happen probably after Mississippi's A&M. Even if he wins, yes, even if he wins. And they did win somehow through a miracle finish, which I've never figured out yet. But they won it, and Billy Napier was told today he's not going to be the coach. So, press conference tomorrow. Franz, good evening. Catch us up tonight. You were there. What on?
Well, you know, it was a different, you know, it was Billy Napier came on. First off, he literally sprinted off the field, but he did stop and take some pictures for somebody with him and his entire family. And then he came into the press room, and I'm thinking to myself after watching him, he knows he has either been fired or was told that it was about to happen. Something he knew. Either way, whether he had been officially told or just the body language, the verbiage, whatever, he knew. You felt bad for him at that point in time when he literally broke down, almost, just barely composed himself from breaking down into tears, and said, he loves football, and nobody doubts that, and nobody doubts, buddy, that this guy from Sunday to Friday might be the ideal guy to have as your head coach. But it's kind of like this woman said to me as I'm going to the parking lot. I'm going there. There was this woman who is getting ready to get into her F-150 and
smoking a cigarette. I read the column. Go ahead.
Well, not everybody read it, but anyway,
I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, this woman says to me, and it was kind of ironic because we engaged in a little bit of a talking about the game and everything, and then she says, talking about Billy, she says he gets paid $7.2 million a year, 0.2 for being a father figure to his players, $7 million to win on Saturday. We've had too much 0.2, not enough $7 million, if you ask me. And buddy, if you want something that really sums up what I think the majority of the people in the Gator Nation are thinking, that's it. I think everybody is in awe of the decorum of this team, of the lack of arrests, the high rate of graduation, of GPA, the highest there's been, you name it. All that's good, but it comes down to Saturday. What have you done for me on Saturday? Because it's not just about Saturday itself. Here's the other thing about it. When you win, your football program takes in more money. And what does that mean? That means that your basketball team gets more money. It means that your women's sports get more money. That means that all your Olympic sports get more money because football is the engine that drives the whole thing.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot of questions on here. People asking here, jumping aboard real fast on this pop-up show on. People talking about Gruden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's stay focused if we can about what has transpired in the last 4 years, what our thoughts and expectations were. I did a column today on Billy, We Hardly Knew You, which is what you suggested I should do. And it was basically, I wrote, and it was like he had a job as football coach, and then he was in a witness protection program.
Yeah.
He didn't really want any relationships. That's fine. It's not fine if you're the head coach of Florida because you got to get more than that. You got to be willing to share some thoughts, feelings, whatever, with not just the media. That was one thing, but fans, whatever. And he was not. He just thought it was a come to work on Monday through Friday job, and I'll do my job, and leave me alone, and I don't have to do a press conference twice a week, and that's it. It's a lot more than that. So I'm not going to trash Billy now that he's down. I would like to say I had a bad relationship, but I didn't have any relationship. I wouldn't like to say it. I just didn't have any relationship. I've spoken to him maybe 5 or 6 times, a few words. You've spoken to him more than I have, but it's not about our personal relationship. It's about the persona that he had. And the persona was he couldn't get things fixed, continue the same mistakes being made over and over again. Mm-hmm. Play calling didn't get better, got worse. I'm afraid, and I hate to say it, and maybe you agree with me, I think maybe DJ has regressed a little bit in the last few weeks. I know he's been hurt, but anyway, the point is that it was not trending well for Billy. And looking down the schedule, things weren't going to get much better. And what is it Jeremy Foley said? Things that need to be done eventually should be done now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So here we are, and not shocked that this is going to happen because the way he was going. I mean, the South Florida loss was the beginning of the end, but he had chances somewhat to redeem himself. And in the end, he will probably that team will end up winning 5, maybe 6 games, and maybe going to a bowl. But it just wasn't good enough. Here's my conclusion. I'm not going to trash him, but I'm just going to say Billy Napier, it turns out, was a very average football coach. That's the truth.
I think that's the only way to put it, is that he was an average football coach. Maybe you've heard me use this term before, and I talk about the Peter Principle. And I've read the book 2 or 3 times, and I find there's great truth in it, which says that people can't resist the urge to take that next step. And sometimes in taking that next step, what they've actually done is they've gone beyond their level of real competence. Urban Meyer, let me use Urban Meyer as the example, buddy.
I'm going to bring Rob in here while you're doing that. He's on the center waiting. Go ahead.
Urban Meyer had opportunities to take high jobs after Bowling Green, and when he was at Bowling Green, because he was doing so well. He had the wherewithal and the smarts to take the Utah job and take the next step up to be prepared for when he came to Florida. And obviously, what a smart thing to do. Then we get Will Muschamp, who, while he may have been a head coach in waiting at Texas, had never been the guy that has to meet with the boosters. It never has been the guy that has to, at 5 o'clock in the morning, some irate mama calls because her son only got 17 snaps on Saturday, while Billy Bob next to him got 41. He had never had to deal with these things, and he was totally unprepared for it. I am convinced to this day that had Will Muschamp taken the Urban Meyer route, he would have been a very successful coach.
Should have been.
You noticed, by the way, that Georgia has not won a national championship since he basically stepped aside. He was the guy pulling the trigger on the Georgia defense, not Dan Lanning. Trust me. After he left South Carolina, he's coaching for his buddy Kirby Smart. He's the guy that was calling the shots. Now that Glenn Schumann is calling them on his own, you notice the Georgia defense has given up a lot of yards and a lot of points. Will was a genius when it comes to that, but he didn't have the preparation that he needed to take on a job of this magnitude. No. Rob's dealing with stuff at Auburn. Auburn's the same situation as Florida. I guarantee you it's the same.
We're going to get to Rob and submit it on that, and we're going to talk about it.
You've won championships. You've won championships. You've competed at the highest level. You know what it's like to be at the top of the mountain. And unfortunately, you also know what it's like to be spinning your tires in the mud of mediocrity.
Yep.
And that happens. And it's the one thing why Florida had to make the move now when they did. They had to make sure that this spinning the tires, which I don't say it happened necessarily with Zook, because Zook I thought was a panic hire on short notice, but they had plenty of notice on all the other coaches.
Yep.
And I just got to think that you cannot, at some point in time, you got to decide, I can't spin my tires anymore.
Yeah. And that's what they did. You're right. I had this, I don't know. I don't like to see coaches get fired. I know it's part of the game and all that. I go back a long way. I've seen coaches crying, holding up pictures of players, people who were good coaches just got in the wrong situation. I hate it that they're in this high risk, but they're in a high reward business. And certainly I get that he gets his $20 million, and that's fine. That he's a lot of pain, but the disgrace of failure is pretty harsh. I know we don't have to have any pity parties for him. Let me just say this. I would like to have seen Billy finish out the year, even though I know it's not the conventional way. And people will say, get him out of it. We don't want it. Don't be spiteful. You know, he helped your program at the time you needed it. He did. It wasn't good enough. I would like to see him do a Ron Zook and take his guys and finish. Didn't happen that way. Tomorrow it's a press conference. We probably ought to tell people, just turn in and say, what? Billy got fired? Tomorrow is a press conference, and they'll make it official. They made it official today with an announcement by the athletic director. Franz, you wrote about that.
Yeah.
And what's happening. And I wish it had gone differently. But Billy had chances to almost right the course and chose not to do it. That is pure arrogance, is what that is. When you have a chance to do going on. Someone wrote today, Cade Bell. You know who he is, Franz?
Yes, indeed. His dad,
pretty good,
fairly famous guy named Kerwin Bell.
That's correct.
And he is
offensive coordinator at Pitt and
University of Pittsburgh, which is now 5-2, and is a team that nobody in the Atlantic Coast Conference is eager to play.
Yeah, and they just want a big game. And someone wrote, if Billy would have been diligent enough and looked up Cade Bell, he might still be the coach at Florida. But no, he was going to do it his way, and that's what happened. So he did it his way. Now he's out of a job. All right, having said that, good luck, good Billy. Like we said in the column, we hardly knew you. He was in the Witness Protectors program, it seems like. So wish him all the best, his family, etc. Seems like yesterday, friends, we're sitting right there in the front row, and we're talking to him about his kids being well-behaved and his young family coming to games. So I'm figuring, it was a workout. It felt good. It didn't work out. So let's move on now. The next coach is going to be who? Before we do that, let's go over to Rob and talk about he's got his problems down on the level he's playing in the Village right now. They're going to fire coach next, all right?
Well, it's like, over here in Arkansas, about 5 years ago, they executed 6 guys in a week, and everybody in the death house over there was on pins and needles. They're coming. The Grim Reaper is walking up and down the hall, and I think there's going to be plenty more coaches do get fired. But I was talking to a guy that's been in, the inside of couple of major football programs in the last 25 years. He's been out on the West Coast. He's been in the SEC. He said, you don't want to hire James Franklin. First off, look at these coaches' records against top 5 and top 10
You
teams.
don't want to hire James Franklin?
No, he said you do not. And you go back and look, how many sips of wine do you have to take from the bottle to know that it's not a good bottle of wine? Okay. Why did Penn State just fire this guy? And, Florida's got great resources. You'll never find another Steve Spurrier. You're never going to find another Urban Meyer. You're just going to find the next great coach. And they're all different. I mean, they just are. But, Florida's got a lot of money. I'm looking at the Athletic website tonight. You think this Florida deal isn't big? There's 6 different. I'm looking at one. Okay, Bruce Feldman, candidates to replace Billy Napier. And there's 2, 3, 4, 5 different stories on the Athletic. It's big. But, when we fire coaches in today's world, it's really expensive. So do you tell the head coach, stay out of the way. You're going to keep your job. You're not getting a pay raise. We're going to bring in an elite coordinator, whatever that means. But you look at coaches like Gus Malzahn. He buried the Central UCF program. Now I said, you watch. He'll have success the first 2 or 3 games for Florida State, and people will adjust and figure him out. And what Gus never will do is admit he's got to change. Look what's happening. They're having a panic attack in Tallahassee. I watched them play Stanford last night. And not too many years ago, maybe 2, Norvell said, Clemson and North Carolina and Florida State, we don't need Cal and Stanford and SMU in this league. I know a lot about SMU, and I know one thing. I got friends who've got kids there and people that went to school there. They raised $162 million in a week. And people were saying, you want any more? And they said, no, hold on. We're good. So you look at what's going on. You've got certain boosters at certain schools that have too much power. There's an old saying in the good book. Yeah. And that is a problem at Auburn. You have Peyton Thorne the first year you brought him in. He didn't work. You brought him back a second year. Then you got Jackson Arnold. Okay. Before we all buy a new truck, we drive it around a little bit, test drive it. It's not 4-wheel drive. Well, it's not for me. It's not a truck if it's not 4-wheel drive, unless it's for an exterminator or a painter. That's what I think. Because where I live, you have to have 4-wheel drive. So I'm looking at this thing. Who are the coaches that you want to get at? Franz is right about Billy Napier. Billy Napier did everything right. It's like John Malmo, the smartest advertising guy I've ever heard. He's on NPR. You'll hear him talk. He said, we see a restaurant spends $2 million on a renovation and rebranding, brass and walnut, classy artwork everywhere, lighting, bathroom attendant. And then they got greasy salt and pepper shakers. You can't do that. If you half-ass anything in life, you'll have a half-ass life. If I'm Florida, I get some people in that room that know football. And I'm not saying this, buddy, to curry favor with you, but I've said it before. You go talk to Buddy Martin. If you're a new family and you move into Long Island, you go have a talk with Don Corleone. It's just the way you do it. Florida, you understand the pulse of Florida football. And you said it when that coach left after the first year at Florida. Well, I would say, I'm going to miss you, but I never knew you. As only you can say it, buddy. This is what happens when you don't have friends and things go south. They just fire you. And no one's ever going to say Billy Napier's not a good guy. And Pete Cordelli, my friend I've known for 31 years, he coached with Lou Holtz for 14 years in coaching, told me something right before we went off the air, but before we got on the air tonight. He just left the Titans game, and he'll be on our show in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Sidelines, with Ellis Johnson and Dave Bartu and Brendan. He said, going into last night's game, and Pete has written this book about coaching quarterbacks. It's great, making the grade. And he said, going into last night's game, DJ Lagway had a total of 4 net yards rushing this entire season. I don't know how many yards he rushed for last night, but that is a regression. And Pete's the one who said on the show, Brendan said, did you hear what Pete just said about him getting hurt? He and Roman Harper said, he's missed so much work. A lot of things happened Coaches have got to prepare a second and third, and it's hard with the portal. It's hard with NIL. Florida's got a lot of money they want to spend on this, but you know what, y'all? You want to, you can't, you like Franz, you're right. Glenn Schumann, look at that. Hey, look at that Georgia defense. They just, and Lane Kiffin, look at his record against top 5 and top 10 teams. Go look at it.
Yeah, all right. So there's a lot right there to come back to. That's good. But let me get back to a basic. I kind of passed over. You said James Franklin. I got a friend called me today who's a very astute lawyer friend, smart. He says, let me give you the exhibit A, a blind resume of somebody that you tell me. He started ripping off these facts and where he coached and what he did and his record, the record in the SEC, et cetera, built a program. And it became obvious after a while it was James Franklin. And I said, you know what? I got him on my list because think of what he did. What he did was way above what you did. I mean, you can talk about anything you want to, but building a program is hard. Rebuilding a once great program like Penn State that was in the sewer. He got 2 years in between, I grant you. But putting that program back together and making them compete at a national level was a major deal, not just for football, but for humankind and what he did there. And he's smart. My friend told me a couple of stories about him, what he did. He put his family back together. He made his dad apologize to his mother and the son. Anyway, he's a very powerful. I don't know the guy, but I know his record is pretty good. Now, is he top of the line? Maybe not. But when you start comparing him, I'm just saying, and I'm gonna go throw it to Franz. My first choice is Lane Kiffin. I still don't believe he's committed, although tonight I read something else by John Talty that he's very intrigued with the Florida job. I want to see if the guy I saw at the dinner table, Happy in Oxford, is willing to pull the trigger to come to Florida. I would say that would be the best thing could happen. If he doesn't, I think James Franklin is as good as any other candidate out there you can get. Franz, am I wrong?
I have met James Franklin up close and personal. I was in Nashville for a conference, goes back when he was at Vanderbilt. And I listened to this guy talk about how the game begins with a commitment to integrity. And he says, integrity in your classwork, integrity in your work ethic, integrity in your sleep habits. And he goes down this entire list of things that we don't ever really think about that has to do with football. Now, he takes that list of integrity and he wins 9 games on back-to-back years at Vanderbilt. Now, Clark Lee is proving that it can be done again at Vanderbilt. But trust me, Clark Lee would have never gotten the job and never had that opportunity had James Franklin not proven it can be done there. And James Franklin did prove it can be done. He had the right assistant coaches and so forth. Now, what he did not do at Penn State is it comes down to one basic thing. He did not develop a top-of-the-line quarterback in his entire time there. And if you want to win at this level and you want to win national championships, how many teams in the last 10 years can you name that had a pretty average quarterback who won a national championship? I can name one. You know who that is? Alabama 2015. And you know who the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach was?
Lane Kiffin, it was Jacob Coker.
That's right. Jacob Coker, who if you had asked Florida State fans, because he transferred to Alabama from Florida State, if you'd have asked Alabama fans, they would have said, Florida State fans, they would have said, this guy couldn't run a convenience store. Yeah. How could he ever play a quarterback in college? Won a national championship. That's the only time that there's been a national championship won without a first-rate quarterback. Look at the guys who Trevor Lawrence won 2 of them at Clemson. Alabama wins one with not with Bryce Young, but with Tua and Jalen Hurts pretty much sharing the championship. They win another one with Mac Jones, and on and on and on. All these guys, you look at almost every one of these guys that quarterbacked these teams to championships was a first-round draft pick. Now, so how many Penn State quarterbacks have been first-round draft picks? The answer is 0. So if there's a knock against James Franklin from my perspective, that's it. But if you want to take all the other things like playing great defense, like having a great running game, having good offensive line, having guys that don't get arrested, like having guys that do well academically, like having really good assistant coaches, etc., like that, he's first rate, buddy. But again,
you got a quarterback there. He's already made for him if he steps in. Yeah. I mean, whoever gets this job in Florida, if they don't lose too many players, it's kind of set up for them. A good coach to bring in a few players in the portal, and this thing is ready to rock and roll. Rob, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you've got. I mean, the track and field programs in Florida. I say this every chance I get. Are why Florida high school football is so awesome. They don't have facilities that are even close to what the high school facilities are in Georgia and Alabama and Texas and even Tennessee. It's nuts what you've got going on in Middle Tennessee. David Lipscomb, CBHS in Memphis, MUS. One of the schools in Memphis, my school's biggest rival, wanted to put 10 luxury boxes in for their high school stadium at $500,000 apiece. And the board said, I think that's a little pretentious for high school. So they voted that down. But let me tell you, I'll take a kid out of Florida any day because they're tough. They're not pampered. They weren't born on third base and think they hit a triple. You get me a guy from Pahokee, Immokalee, Belle Glade, Clewiston. You get the guys from Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. You get those tough-ass guys from Central Florida that work on farms. You get those guys from tobacco country like Kerwin Bell in Mayo, Florida, the Panhandle. Florida's got everything you need. You got a lot of transients that have moved down there from other parts of the country, but you got money. The reason why Florida's got a lot of money, got a College of Engineering that's one of the best in the country, which means the world. And I'm just saying, I think, James Frank, you have to look at Lane Kiffin. I'm gonna be talking with some people that will give me the honest as they get about Kiffin. Ask Yancey Porter. He'll be on our show Tuesday morning, Rebel Yell Hotline. Listen to that tomorrow night. If you listen to it, it's on Super Talk Mississippi, 7:00 Eastern, Mondays. It's an hour show with Yancey Porter and all these Ole Miss guys. But forever is a long time. If the Florida job was actually offered to you, you don't know how you're going to react. I'm telling you, as a rival of Florida's for a long time, and still a rival, I got a lot of respect for that program. But once they got Steve Spurrier, Charlie Pell woke people up. And thank you, Franz, for introducing us to Ward Pell. That was one of the greatest interviews I've ever had in my life. But the relationship he had with Ben Hill Griffin, there's a lot of quiet Florida boosters you don't know about that want to support this program. Get you the right guy, but get you a guy who's proven himself in the big games. And you can't automatically think that, well, if you gave Florida, Lane Kiffin, Florida's resources, hey, Ole Miss put the brakes on a $350 million expansion to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium 3 years ago. And Kiffin said, let's hold off on that. We need it for NIL. Florida's got tradition. I mean, in the last 30, 40 years, they're one of the best programs in the country. They only had one coach in the 50s, one in the 60s, one in the 70s. Now, it's a hot job, and everybody wants to replace those legends. You just don't do that. You just get the next great one, and he's only compared to who he is. Y'all know that Florida program better than anybody. But for everybody watching, what do I know about Kiffin? I know that Jimmy Sexton's his agent. And Jimmy Sexton might flirt with the Gators to get Lane a pay raise. But in the state of Mississippi, you know how long you can go on a contract extension? A maximum 4 years. You can't go 9 or 10 like they do in other. You know who started all this 10-year contract, lifetime crap? Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame. They gave him a 10-year contract for life. The Pope signed off on it. Okay. After a couple of years, Brady Quinn left. Notre Dame just went off a cliff. Now, Charlie Weiss Jr. is offensive coordinator, co-coordinator at Ole Miss. But if I'm Florida, I'm looking at guys like John Summerall. I'm looking at guys.
They'll never go for John Summerall.
I think he's a Grissom High School graduate from Huntsville.
He may be everything, but they don't want another Group 5 guy.
I know you're right. You're right. And that's the thing. Who you going to go get from out of the – are you going to go get that guy Texas Tech has? But, hey, without Cody Campbell giving you all that money, it's different. I did say this. I talked to a friend today that has an NIL collective. He said, let me tell you what we're dealing with right now. I got a kid that plays for a Big Ten school, paying him $45,000 a month. He found out a kid at Texas Tech is making $52,000 a month. He's having a fit. And the first thing the coach and I told him was, do not tell anyone in this locker room how much money you're making. Guys, the free market's going to correct all this stuff.
Well,
it's coming.
Their agents want them to tell them that's right because it goes up. I mean, look, that's another whole other deal. Look, we're past the whole NIL money deal at this point in time. We know you can do it, and this has been an incredible year of college. I got a stats I read something today. What's happened the last couple of weeks? Look, I don't know how much better college football is at the top, but I can tell you what, in the middle of college football has gotten to be really great. Look at all the changes and all the situations, the teams in convention, and teams that team. I got one stat I want to read you. Somebody put this today about what's happened to the game this past weekend. You guys go ahead and talk among yourselves. I'll look it up, but it just blew me away. And then I want to get a coach hired tonight. So let's do that. So,
Franz, I got to ask you something. Are you ready for the 6:00 news tomorrow night when they put in there the top 10? Some of these teams are going to be Vanderbilt in the top 10. Yeah, will the earth continue to spin on its axis?
That's right.
I know. Vanderbilt is 10th in the AP, 12th in the coaches. Yeah. And I got to tell you what, if I'm out there and I'm looking at my future opponents and I see Vanderbilt on that list, those guys are just crazy enough to believe they can do it. And, I'll never forget, I had a conversation years ago with Fred Pancoast. He was the offensive coordinator.
My man.
When John Reeves.
Y'all knew him.
Reeves threw to Alvarez.
One of my good friends.
Love it.
Yeah. We got to talking about, he went to Vanderbilt, and we got to talking, why can't Vandy do it? And he says, one day Vanderbilt will get a coach that's going to make these guys believe they can do it. He said Vanderbilt can recruit guys that are capable of doing the physical part. Yeah. But he says they don't get the guy that actually believes he can do it. They get the guy that the first time something goes wrong, he goes, here we go again. He says you got to get that guy at Vanderbilt that has that Steve Spurrier mentality. And he brought up, asked me, he said, do you remember Spurrier gets down 17-0 in the first quarter to South Carolina, and everybody is panicking, and Spurrier ends up winning the game by like 31 points? Spurrier just says, 17, that's nothing. I mean, and with the way he played, it wasn't. But that's because Spurrier had this, and still has, as Buddy can tell you, because Buddy spent more time with him than probably anybody on the planet, not named Jerry Spurrier. Buddy can tell you that Stephen Orr Spurrier has this indomitable confidence that no matter the situation, he's coming out. What was it, Buddy, that Furman Bisher wrote about Spurrier? That
it wasn't Bisher. It was a writer from Southern Living. John Logue actually wrote it.
Yeah.
It was his famous quote. I was at the game. We beat NC State, came back and threw 2 touchdown passes. And I won't be able to get it precisely. It's in one or two of my books. the lead was, back in the day when the leads were everything for your stories, that was the signature for your story. Blindfolded with his hands handcuffed behind him, Steve Spurrier would be a 2-point favorite at his own execution. That was the lead. That was it.
Yeah.
Hey, I found this thing on the college football. The elite district. Listen to this. This is what happened. Miami gets beat by Louisville. We knew that, right? That was a heck of a game. There goes the Heisman Trophy, by the way, too. Ole Miss loses as well to Georgia in a game that was winnable. Texas Tech loses as well. Number 7. Number 10, LSU gets beat by Vanderbilt, right? Tennessee gets beat. USC loses to Notre Dame. Memphis gets beat, right?
Yeah.
There were 22. 23, Utah gets beat, and Nebraska gets beat. Man, I'm telling you, it's a bunch of losses at the top in the polls. And if you're around there somewhere in the middle, you got a shot because this thing is crazy.
Yeah.
Here's another stat. Someone said something about the fact that they announced the Florida-Mississippi State game. It was 90,203. Somebody said that Florida attendance is about the size of 3 Miami home games. That was what they get in 3 games. Anyway, all right, so let's get down to the basics. We won't get into the call on Franz on Saturday night where 3rd and 1, 1:47 to go, and that Lagway gets sacked. Pass play was a terrible call. I guess the play where he tried to run the ball was a check down by him because Billy got in his ear coming off the field. So here's my thought on Billy. And I wrote these thoughts down, and then we'll go to the coaching situation. Billy, I always said this is to be a great theme for a movie or whatever. Now I found there was one. A fireman who's also an arsonist. Get that? Mm-hmm. Billy is a fireman arsonist because he starts his own fire, then he has to put them out, and that's what he does in every game. Lane Kiffin, by the way, against the AP top 25 is 13-35. Okay. And finally, I want to make a comment about Jake Slaughter's hug. You saw it, I'm sure, Franz.
Yeah.
To Billy, and it said something. I'm not sure if it was "I'm sorry." I'm not sure if it's like "Thank you, Coach." It was an unusual scene on the sideline. So
these kids love him. The kids love him. They appreciate Buddy and Rob the fact that they've had a coach who wants to build players from the inside out. And I think there's something to be said about that. We had a guy here at Florida. You had a guy there at Auburn. His name was Shug Jordan. Florida's guy was Ray Graves. Ray Graves used to do what, you finish school and you're out of eligibility. He'd call everybody in town to get you a job, get you some sort of financial aid and everything so you could get your college degree because he believed in the kids that played for him. Dean Smith goes 36 years as the basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. You know how many guys he didn't have who graduated during that time?
0.
2.
Okay, 2.
Both of them are multi-billionaires. Both of them. So as if they really needed that college degree. But Dean went to his grave believing that those guys should have gone ahead and finished. You had Shug Jordan, another guy who did basically the same thing, would call everybody in the state of Alabama to get a guy a job so that he could pay for whatever school was left if he had left school without getting that college degree. Mm-hmm. There was a time, Buddy, Rob, when coaches did that. Now, I don't know whether it's the money that's involved, the time that's taken up. I don't know what it is. We have graduated or gravitated past, whatever you want to call it, this point in time where you can be a coach who cares. Billy cared. He just didn't win on Saturday. Yeah. And that's the one thing that's got to happen. And I love watching Jake Slaughter and other kids, how they embraced him, how talking with Jaden Ball, and he mentions Billy Napier, and you would think he's talking about his father. I mean, you really would believe that last night. DJ Lagway almost breaks down in tears talking about his coach. They knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But he didn't win on Saturday.
That's right.
And that's the thing. It's got to be a competitive balance between what you're doing on the inside and what you're doing on the outside. Because as I said earlier, it's more than just what you do on Saturday for that particular Saturday. You are doing it not just for football, but you're doing it for the women's sperm whale harpooning team. You're doing it for the ping pong, for the underwater ping pong team. Every kind of sport you've got, football pays for it. So you've got to have that guy. Yeah, it's great that he's doing all the good stuff, and you've got to find a guy who can do them both. But he better win because so many people depend on it.
Yeah.
I'm getting slammed here by people on James Franklin, but that's okay. I know, Franz, you talk a lot about roster building, and you were correctly about what you said in roster building, and Billy was trying to build a roster. I'm trying to present the issue here, putting together your list of candidates. It's not easy to get these people. It's not easy to get everybody says, well, I'm going to choose. You're not going to get him. He's making already $12 million. All right, forget it. Think you can go out? This is worth Florida. We can hire by. No, there are other good jobs out there too. This idea that we can get anybody we want, that's crap. So you've got to be. And I had a long talk with a guy who knows more about the hiring of coaches at Florida than any man in history. I'm not going to give you his name. He knows more. And he says the number one thing is the fact you've got to find somebody who's movable, who will leave their job. And it's not easy because 2 out of 3 are not. They're happy and like their job, whatever. So when you start making your list about your wish list, this is not like Santa Claus. Oh, well, I have this guy, that guy, that guy. They're not available, folks. So you better get a list of people who are available, like him or not. And I'm not saying Franklin is the guy. I'm thinking he's going to be on my list. However, you better start making a list because Lane Kiffin's not a slam dunk by a long shot. But the bottom line is you've got to have people who are movable. Think about it. James Franklin's got a payoff. He got money in his pocket. Get a discount there. He's had big time football. He's run a good program at Penn State. He's competed at a high level. I mean, he's ought to be on your list. You guys tell me who needs to be on that list because I would challenge anybody to come up with 5 really great names of coaches who are movable. They're not movable.
All right, I'll start. I'll give you the first one. Rob, give us the next one. Brent Key.
He's
Georgia
a possibility. Tech. It's a possibility, but I mean, he'd be along the long list. Yeah, he's had a great year. Right? He has had a great year.
He has built that program up. He has taken them from the leftovers of the option, of the funky option, and built them into a team that still runs the quarterback, but they're a multiple option team.
All right, I'll put him on the list. You can convince me. I agree. I think if you're on a list of 5 to 7 people, that he should be on there. Okay, because he's done something really good at Georgia Tech. All right, you're up, Rob. Give me a coach.
Well, Brent Key's from Trussville, Alabama, Birmingham.
No, he's taken.
No, I know he is. And I had Georgia Tech to win 10, but I sure missed on Auburn and Florida. But he's a hell of a guy. I'm with Franz. Another one, Franz, you've talked about Jed Fish before, and he's at Washington. He's got some, connections to Florida.
Yeah, it's pretty, knows him.
And he knows it. But what I would do was I would get a bunch of football people together. And another one that you can't help but take a hard look at would be Texas Tech's coach. Take a look at him, and but there are not a lot of great ones out there.
He's married to the money there at Texas. By the way, my friend Paul Grove says Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is not going to leave that Nike money. There's no way. He makes so much money.
$82 million.
That's what I mean. You talk about Dan Lanning. He's not available, Paul.
He's
you're
untouchable.
A smart guy and a good friend. Just when you start making this thing up, you got to understand. You got to understand that these people are not available. What Spurrier say? I hired you because you're cheap and available. There aren't many cheap and available guys out there.
Well, all right. Yeah. I'll give you a third guy, Alex Golish.
I was going to say that.
At South Florida.
That's a good name, but I mean,
would
you want to hire your coach from South Florida? Really? I mean, think about
it. But here's why, buddy, and I'll throw this at you. Tennessee's offense was at its best when Heupel went there. The 2 years that Alex Golish was his coordinator. Hendon Hooker went from a guy that was who could lose games at Virginia Tech to a guy who could win a lot of them and became a first-round draft pick at Tennessee. Runs that blur offense. He's going to put points on the scoreboard. He knows the Tampa area, knows Central Florida. He's a guy that can coach. And I realize he's group of five, and people don't want to hear that. But I will say this. The guy's winning. He's got a real good chance to make the college football playoff. And wouldn't that be a hoot if he makes the college football playoff and Florida State, and Miami, because Miami is by no means got it going now because they haven't lost a game, and all these other teams that have better schedules ahead, Miami may not make the playoff. So wouldn't that be a hoot if Alex Golish makes it and these other and every other school in Florida didn't?
So who's that give us on our list so far? Brent Key, right?
Brent Key, Joey McGuire, Alex Golish. All right. We all know Lane Kiffin's at the top, so we're just.
So there's no real elite coaches on there except for Lane, right?
No,
if you're making a list of so-called elite coaches, there's only one guy, and that's now. I always say James Franklin may not be an elite, but he'd be up there higher than most of those guys. And I'm not campaigning for him. People just bash me. No, I'm Clark Lee. I would be willing to make a call to Clark Lee. Okay, he ain't going. He's the Vanderbilt guy through and through. But
I got one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd love to see Tim Polasek, who's the coach at North Dakota State for the Bison, but he's not group of five, and I know that. But take a really hard look, if you're looking at a coach, Jeff Browne, the coach at Louisville.
Yeah, he's his club looked really good in Miami. He really did. And Browne, what's Browne? 53.
Yeah, young guy, but the coaching Brahms, he won at Purdue.
Yeah, he did.
And I think Brahms. I was talking to a football coach who had to coach against him a lot, and he said, "Man, Dabo and I both agreed early on. He goes, this guy's going to be a star." And I think Brahms, he wins everywhere he goes. He's probably got the Yum Brands money behind him at Louisville and the Fisher hot dogs.
Yeah.
But look, I'll tell you what's going on at Vanderbilt that's interesting. They've always gone to the same 35 or 40 families in Belmead. They're branching out now, and Vanderbilt's smart. They got First Bank as a sponsor of their field.
Yeah.
That's a 13.5, 14. I used to work for them. 14 billion UAM assets under management bank. They're pumping money into them, and what they're doing. And I had, I was like, how's LSU going to beat Vanderbilt? You know what, Garrett Nussmeier? I did not buy the hype, by the way, preseason. He's 7-5 as an SEC starting quarterback. 7-5.
It's amazing.
And Brian Kelly, people I know that have ever worked with that guy or know anything about him than coaching, tell me, say he's impossible. He's hard to work for. He's a foul-mouthed jerk. But other than that, he's kind of the Ralph Miller equivalent of a college football coach, former Oregon State basketball coach. Won a ton of games. How many championships? How many trophies does he have? Bottom line is, who out there is an elite coach that's available? Y'all are both right. That's the question.
All right, let me ask you this,
Oops.
both of you this. Let me ask you both this question and be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think I dislike Billy Napier?
No,
Not at all.
no, hell
I know
no.
better.
Well,
Buddy, you're
I
as fair. You're as fair and judicious and
Bruce Green says, buddy, why don't you like Billy? Because he didn't talk to you? Have you ever said me say that?
No,
No.
not at all.
Here's the thing that people, I'm going to stick up for you, buddy. And because people said the same thing to me. It's not that I dislike Billy personally. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that sometimes we as writers who have been around for a few years, between Buddy and me, I'd say there's about 120 years of covering college football.
The best ever. The best ever.
The fact is we've been around the block and we've seen the guys who've succeeded and we've seen the guys who failed. And I got I could go down a list. I've got notebooks filled with stuff of why certain guys made it and why certain guys didn't. You know, I go back to Charlie Pell. What happened with Charlie Pell? And that is because he let somebody talk him into hiring a guy named Sonny McGraw. And Sonny McGraw brought the program down.
That's true. And Spurrier told me, what were the 100-some charges against him?
109.
There's nobody more diligent and honest about this stuff than Spurrier.
Yeah.
He will kill you if he thinks you cheated. I mean, literally will kill you. And he told me, I don't think they did much of anything wrong. And he said, even that so-called check that was given to the guy on child support in Palatka, what was his name, the running back, Franz?
Jarvis Williams.
Jarvis
Williams. That was what they really got him on. There's a check given to him. Steve said, if you go back and check, the NCAA rule says if you had a previous relationship with somebody and they give you money, it's not a violation. And the guy who gave the money was a car dealer. It was a friend of the family's. So consequently, he wasn't even guilty on that one. So I mean, I'm not saying there wasn't some things that Charlie didn't do, but I told who was on his staff. It was Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
And he told me some things. There were a couple of rogues, young coaches that were just rogues, and Charlie didn't know what was going on. Anyway, all right. So
Hoss Adams told Charlie, he said, Charlie, he said, I beg you, do not hire Sonny McGraw, and do not hire Jim Parker. And he hired them both.
Yeah.
He hired Jim Parker.
Yeah.
He hired Jim Parker because Jim Parker had great relationships in the black communities throughout Florida, and that's why he hired him.
Yeah.
He hired Sonny McGraw, and Sonny McGraw put Auburn on probation, and he came up to Florida and did the same thing for the Gators.
Yeah. Let me get this real fast, and I do want to not roll on too much further here, but the fact that we're not being sponsored tonight, we do have sponsors. They sponsor our regular programming. I want to thank our folks, Meldon Law, who do so many things for us and other people in the community. Check them out. They have 4 locations serving now, 5, one in South Florida. Meldon Law, they don't back down. And all of our friends, as well as the other sponsorships we have here. We would like to thank all the people who sponsor our program, and thank you for that. Also, Toby Parmenter, who's a very good listener and caller.
Love this guy.
Yeah, he's good. He's got a pretty good list here. People talk about who you want to hire. You got Kiffin, Drinkwitz, Rhett Lashley, although I'm not big. Marcus Freeman's a guy I like a lot, and Kerwin Bell, who wouldn't get hired, but he put some good thought. That's a good list right there. That's the best list I've seen so far.
Yeah, I tell you, I'll give you a couple other names on my on my list.
Yeah.
Drinkwitz is definitely on my list, and I know a lot of people will think that he is Billy Napier 2.0, but there's a difference. He's won 10 or more games. This will be his 3rd consecutive year with far fewer resources and far fewer areas he can recruit in than Billy Napier. came from the same league. One has won big, the other one has not. And Eli has done it with far fewer resources than Billy had at his disposal. So I would say, I'd say that's a real problem.
Well,
right there. I'll tell you what, I would look very, very strongly. And when I mean strongly, I mean very strongly at the guy who's at Virginia, Tony Elliott. He took over a program that was
a great year.
Well, you look at what happened with him. He had his first year there, 3 of his football players got murdered on campus. Mm-hmm. And he had kids who left the program, whose parents pulled them out. There was apathy about everything, and he's had to rebuild them from scratch. And Tony Elliott coached on a couple of national championship teams for Dabo. So he's got good, strong pedigree there. His offenses run really, really good. I think, I would not say he is elite at this point, but I'd say that he's capable of being there. I would say he's very, very capable of being there. I think that I think he would be a very, very smart hire. And I'm going to throw a name at you, and people might say he'll never leave there. But I know also that Penn State wants him. I would go look at Matt Rhule, Rhule. And the reason I would look at Matt Rhule is this. The guy is going to have the instant attraction of having coached in the NFL and knowing what it's like. He won at Temple. Nobody wins at Temple, but he won at Temple. Steve Adazio won at Temple too, so that may throw that down. But he's also a guy that brings in top quality coaches who have the NFL connection, and he's going to make it possible, if whoever hires him, whether it's Penn State, Florida, or anybody else, he's going to make it possible for kids to take that long look and say, well, my position coach was coaching in the NFL or played in the NFL or whatever like that. So I think these guys, I'm not saying they are the guys, but I'm saying they need to be on a list to be vetted.
Okay, I agree with those guys. And let me just mention, by the way, that I want to bring up Titan MRI imaging. Got 3 locations serving Gainesville Park, have their location, Millennium Center, now one in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County. One of our fine sponsors are making it possible tonight. They have a commercial-free program on the special pop-up show, Titan MRI and imaging. All right, so this is your friend, our friend, Napier says we haven't discussed Gonzalez taking over and what's going to happen to the next 5 games. That's a good point. I'm one of the biggest Billy Gonzalez fans around. He is not a personality coach. I don't know how good of a head coach he'll be. He's a great assistant and a terrific, as good a wide receiver coach as there is in college football. But I don't know that he would project as a head coach. I do hope he stays with a new coach, whoever that is. But, I think, like we said earlier, wouldn't it be something that Florida started putting up 40 points a game, after that? So I don't know, Franz. I think Billy is right. Gonzalez is a terrific coach and needs to be right where he is. I don't know if he'll be a head coach someday, but certainly he's got the reins now.
Guys, here's an interesting dynamic no one's talking about with Missouri. Okay, Walmart headquarters is where?
Bentonville.
That's right. Guess where most all of the Walton's children went to college?
Arkansas.
Missouri.
Oh, okay.
This is something I've been digging into this, and I have a lot of friends up there. They said you wouldn't. Okay, no, this is a fact. The last campaign fundraiser for Arkansas, the Walton Foundation gave $500 million to that campaign, all for academics. They don't do that. Now they've got a sponsorship at the Reynolds Razorback Stadium now on the field, but Eli Drinkwitz is from Alma, Arkansas, right there on I-40 when you get off between Fort Smith and Fayetteville, okay? Eli has also courted the Kroenke family. Y'all know them from Denver.
Yep.
Okay, they're pumping in money. Guys, Faurot Field's about to go up to 80,000. That's again, one of Florida and Missouri are 2 Super 6 schools, only 6 in America, with a vet school, a law school, and a medical school. They're pumping over $300 million into the football end zone right now. Missouri has made up their mind they want to be great in football. And they've got that NIL deal in the state. If you're an in-state kid, student athlete, and you commit to go to Missouri, you can start getting paid while you're still in high school. So I think Drinkwitz, I don't think he's going anywhere because he's worked too hard to build those relationships. And I think it's real important. And we're going to talk in the morning with Pete Cordelli, Ellis Johnson, and Dave Bartu, Brendan and I will, about what's going on. It's nothing against James Franklin or Matt Rule, who's 2-23 against ranked teams.
I like Matt Rule.
I do too, but you got to show me that you can beat quality opponents.
I go by the eye test watching a team play. That's what I go by. But yeah, back to the Florida and Missouri, you know what else they have? 2 of the best journalism schools in America.
Yes.
If that matters anymore.
It matters. It absolutely matters, buddy. Yeah. But, buddy, just go back to defend you. Hell no, you've been nothing but nice. I think Franz and I know you very well. You're one of the kindest people I know. It's like Franz is. All you've ever said is, hey, I'd love to talk to you. I'll just say this. I don't think Billy Napier would be where he is today if he had built a relationship with you. And
I know about that. I'm not asking for that.
I know.
Credit,
it makes me mad.
I disliked him. And even if I did dislike him, I wouldn't let it affect my rating or my.
Of course not. You're a professional. You would never do that. You'd rip my ass if I did. I mean, I know you two. Y'all are a little bit older than me, but you're smart. You understand what's going on. And I think that would you do it personally. How long have you been writing sports, buddy?
Oh, about almost 60 years.
Okay. Franz, about 50.
Started for a daily newspaper when I was 13. I'm 74 now.
Okay. So and then Barry Trammell out in Oklahoma City started writing for the Daily Oklahoma when he was 17. You think that isn't all about passion? I think along the way, you wouldn't have gotten as far as you've gotten if you hadn't have treated people right. Y'all are good. You've got great reputations. People need to listen to what y'all are saying.
Well,
You're truth brokers. Okay. I'm proud to be associated with you as Coach I. Every one of you, every manager, every coach, every player. I'll do it anytime. See you in the morning.
Here, I want to add this. This is a very clever. I think Dobie is smart. I was thinking the very same thing today. If the new coach could hire Sam Pittman as the offensive line coach at Florida, that would be a huge upgrade, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'd hire his ass so fast.
It'd be a huge upgrade the way I see our offensive line playing right now.
Yeah.
And
he ain't the only one.
I realize you were a high school quarterback.
Wait a minute. I was an 8th grade lineman. I was a guard. I played guard in the 8th grade. So I came from the offensive line. Yeah.
Hey, I was a left tackle for Hughes Supply. We won the Alachua County Championship, and the right tackle was Tommy Petty.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Can you imagine you and I be on the same side of the offensive line? We'd be holy terrorists. Crush.
Get out of the way. Women and children, run.
That's right.
All right, guys. There's a comment here real quick.
Go ahead.
Brent English made. That's true. He says, you got to make Lane Kiffin say no.
Yeah.
That's where it all begins. And what's that old business statement saying? Negotiation doesn't begin until the first guy says no.
Right.
Yeah.
So go in there, make him say no. And then once he said no, then you say, okay, now we're negotiating. And then go from there.
No means tell me more.
Yeah, okay. All right, guys, final thoughts. We're just getting on. We've been doing this for a little over an hour. And that's it past my bedtime. So that's not true. Usually I go on at 9 o'clock. Now, anyway, so wrap it up. A few thoughts. And Rob, you mentioned your show several times. Again, tell folks about it, where they can get it. And when they're on, you and Brendan are the stars of the morning shows.
We have fun. We got a great team. It's about the team, man. We're at 9 a.m. Eastern 8 a.m. Central, Monday through Friday, right here on this channel at Sidelines_live, and the Sidelines YouTube channel, SEC Sidelines Sports Network, Sidelines.live. We've got Coach Pete Cordelli, offensive genius, Coach Ellis Johnson. They both got a national championship ring, a couple other close calls. We've got Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, going to put the numbers out there. He's going to have some good graphs and charts on what's going on in college football. And about in the last 25 years, no program that recruited outside the top 10 won a national championship. There's been one, and that was Auburn, I think, in 2010 with Cam Newton. So interesting stuff, but we're going to get into a lot of the numbers, the how and the why. So appreciate you joining us, and everybody watch this channel because we got the super EP of Western Civilization, Brendan Martin.
Mm-hmm. All right, Franz.
I look at this like I got to tell you something. It's never a happy day when a football coach gets fired.
No, I agree.
And the reason it is because the football coach, the head football coach like Billy Napier, he's set for life. He doesn't ever have to coach again. Yeah. I'm not worried about Billy. What I'm worried about is you got all these people whose jobs depend on Billy Napier, who the new guy's going to come in, and he may take some of them, and probably the bulk of them, he's going to say, it's been swell. And you got people who got mortgages, you got people who got kids in school, you got people whose wives have jobs, etc., like that, and they're going to have to bag it up. And I feel bad about that. And I got to tell you something, folks. I wish that it was so simple, but it isn't anymore. I wish there was a rule that said that once you sign a guy to a contract, he's yours till the contract is over. And I know that might upset a bunch of people, but guess what? If there was a way to enforce a rule like that, it would change the dynamic. We are at a crossroads in college sports. And the firing season for college football is only the tip of the spear or the iceberg or whatever you want to call it. We've got to come to some logical conclusions to change the game. It's going to survive, but at what level is it going to survive? Are we going to survive and have a better product, or are we going to survive and have to spin our wheels in mediocrity for a long time? I want it to be a better product. So it's time for these people who are in charge. And what's the old saying that Greg Sankey always has? It's time for the adults to speak up.
Yeah.
And get, we've heard too much stuff from too many people who don't know anything. It's time for the adults like the Greg Sankeys, etc., like that. These people who are powerful, who know the stuff, to sit down and say, we got to do something that benefits everything from the lowest NAIA school to the top, to the highest Division I school, and make it work for everybody. Because if we keep do what we're doing now, we're going to wipe out program. We're going to wipe out those small schools. And guess what? Those small schools, they may not matter, to us who watch football on Saturdays. We may say, who cares if Co beat Ripon? I don't care. But yet, the kids who play at Co and the kids who play at Ripon are getting a college education because of football. And if their school wipes out football, you got maybe 100 kids who don't get to go, some of whom may not even get to go to college. So we got to do something. And I'm hoping. I hear everybody who's out here who's complaining this, that, and the other, and they're pointing fingers and saying, I'm a homer, Buddy's a homer, Rob doesn't know what he's talking about, all this other stuff. I don't care. You can say whatever you want to me, and people I actually like have said something worse. Trust me. We got to do something, and we got to do something right and do something good now.
Yeah. My late friend who played tackle for Florida back in the golden era. He later was a comedian. His name was Mitchell. Red Mitchum. You might have heard of him, Franz.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a guy at Alabama at Kentucky. Kentucky had some badass offensive linemen. One of them was named Curtis King, I believe. And Red was in this game. Red was a funny guy. They were getting their butts kicked by Curtis King. I mean, they were just getting crushed, bloody noses. And finally, Red turned to his buddy next to him and says, "Look, I can't remember his name, Jim. Do something, even if it's wrong, will you please?"
Yeah,
that's what you're telling. Do something if it's wrong. Guys, great job tonight. Appreciate it very much for being on. This is kind of a we do get these every now and then, Franz, and this. I know we've both been through a bunch of them, but in a way, it's kind of a nice, fresh start. I mean, heck, Franz, it may be time for us to do another book by the time we get on the fresh start of Gator football. Once you get your book out, the golden season coming soon, about 3 weeks, going to have a big deal in Gainesville. It's going to be
and by the way, there will be a press conference tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm driving up there for it, and so tomorrow night I would anticipate, folks, tell your friends and buddies, come on this show tomorrow night, because there's going to be a lot of questions asked, I'm sure, of Scott Strickland and the powers that be about what's going on and how it's going to come down and so forth. I for one think that one of the first things they need to identify is who all is going to be involved in the coaching search, and that should tell us a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, also found out a minute ago before I came on, tomorrow morning, guess who'll be speaking to the Ocala Gator Tip-Off Club? Todd Golden. We were going to be there. We can't make it. This bad timing, right?
What time, buddy?
I think they said 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure.
That's going to be. I'll miss it.
Yes, I'm not. I think I don't know. I can always find out. I can text him, but you got your day full tomorrow. We'll get to catch it next time.
Slightly.
All right, guys. Great job, Rob. Tomorrow morning, look at same time, same station. You and Brendan tear it up. You guys are killing it right now. Keep up the good work. Francis, keep on going. Got a column due, buddy. There's what it looks like right there. By the way, that's my column tonight on Gator Bait. It's up there, and there's some kind of AI thing with Billy leaving the stadium. It's all about Billy. We hardly knew you. There you go. All right, guys. Great job. Thank you. Talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
See you in the morning.
Chris Rob Browne checking in with us tonight. Thank you. Good night, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.